On this channel, we provide useful programming information with practical code examples. This time, it's about inheritance in CSS. You can check representative inherited and non-inherited properties. You can also learn how to control inheritance using the CSS all property. Enabling subtitles will make the code descriptions easier to understand. Please make use of it. In CSS, some properties are automatically inherited from parent elements to child elements. This is a useful mechanism because once you set a specific property, child elements will also have the same style, eliminating the need to set it repeatedly. However, not all properties are inherited. Some properties are inherited while others are not. For example, color and font family are inherited, but box model properties like margin and padding are not. Let's first look at some examples of inheritable properties. Inheritable properties are mainly those related to text and fonts. In this case, all child elements within body will have black text color. All child elements use the Arial font. All text within the body will be 16px by default. Text within a p element will be displayed with 1.5 times line height, affecting its child elements as well. Text and inline elements within a div element are displayed centered. Visibility is a property that controls the visibility of an element. When set to hidden, the element becomes invisible. In this case, child elements within the div will also be hidden. In this case, list items within the UL tag will be displayed with square markers. As an example of inheritable styles, let's apply text color to an article element. In this way, the text color is applied not only to the article element but also to its child elements. Next, let's look at some examples of non-inheritable properties. Properties related to layout and the box model are usually not inherited. These properties need to be set individually for each element. Even if you set outer or inner margins for a div element, it does not affect its child elements. Even if a border is set on a parent element, it does not affect the child elements. The width and height of a parent element do not automatically affect the child elements. The background color set on the body does not directly affect the child elements. However, if a child element has a transparent background, the background color of the parent element may be visible through it. As an example of a non-inherited style, let's apply a border to the article element. In this way, the border is applied only to the article element and not displayed on its child elements. When applying a border to the section element with an article, we see that the border is not inherited by the child elements. Inheritance can be controlled using the inherit, initial, or unset keywords. If you want to inherit, you can explicitly force inheritance using the inherit keyword. If you don't want inheritance, you can reset the property to its initial value using initial or unset. As an example of controlling inheritance, let's prevent the text color applied to the article element from being applied to the div element. This style resets the text color of all div elements within the article to the default color. Disabling the color inherited from the parent element reverts to the browser's initial value. Next, let's take a look at the CSS all property. The all property is a property that can reset almost all CSS properties, including those that can be inherited, for a specified element at once. Specifically, you can use the following 3 keywords to set the properties of an element. Initial resets all properties to their initial values. Inherit inherits all properties from the parent element. Unset inherits the property if it is inheritable, otherwise resets it to its initial value. All is very useful when you want to reset or set multiple properties in bulk, rather than setting only specific properties individually. When you want to reset all previously set styles for a specific element and return it to its initial state, use all initial, like this. In this example, all properties of the div element with the all initial class are reset to the browser's default initial values. Using all inherit makes all properties inherit from the parent element. In this example, elements with the all inherit class inherit all properties, such as color and font size, from the parent element. Using all unset causes properties to be inherited if they can be. Otherwise, they are reset to their initial values. In this case, color is inherited, while font weight is reset to its initial value, typically normal. The all property is a powerful reset mechanism, but it is affected by CSS specificity. If a specific element has strong style specifications, the all property may not be able to override those styles. For example, properties specified with important cannot be affected. In this example, even if you try to reset the style with all initial, the color property will not be reset due to the color red important specification. Next, let's look at the differences between block level elements and inline elements. Block level elements always appear on a new line and expand to the full width of their parent element. Thus, you can freely set the width, and height. You can also set margins, and padding, in all directions, and it will affect all sides. Inline elements are displayed on the same line alongside other inline elements. Therefore, width, and height cannot be set directly. Furthermore, setting margins, and padding for top and bottom has limited effect. Margins and padding for left and right are effective. As you can see, there are differences in how CSS styles are applied to block-level elements and inline elements. In block-level elements, layout-related CSS properties such as width, height, margin, and padding are applied as specified. On the other hand, for inline elements, setting layout-related CSS properties such as width, height, margin, or padding may not be applied or may be applied in a limited manner. However, by setting the display property to block or inline block, you can adjust the styles such as width and height for inline elements as if they were block elements. The source code for this video can be downloaded from the official website. If you like, please visit the URL in the description to aid your learning. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel and check out our new videos.